Hey everybody, how's it going? Super Fiend here. And I've been playing Planet Coaster for over a year, and lately I've been wanting to start a dialogue about an area of the game that I think could be greatly improved. I've expressed a few frustrations about this issue over the course of my Wacky World series, and any of you that have played Planet Coaster for a good length of time have probably had similar frustrations. Now, Frontier has recently patched the game to 1.7 and released a Vintage Pack DLC, and I'm very happy that they're still supporting the game, and overall I think the DLC offerings have been very good. Simultaneously, I'm moderately disappointed about this lingering issue that plagues Planet Coaster, and in my opinion, it really feels like an aspect of the game is missing. I started creating an outline for this video a couple days ago, and it didn't take long before I realized it was going to be too long or could become unorganized. So I've decided to split it into a small series of shorter videos, and I'm not just making these to complain at Frontier about a problem. What I really want is I want a solution. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is demonstrating the issue that I have, and I think a lot of people will agree that, yeah, this is kind of an issue. In the following videos, I'm going to be presenting ideas that I have that I think represent feasible scopes of work that Frontier could undertake to help address this. Now, Frontier knows their product and they know their code base better than I do, so maybe my solutions aren't technically ideal, but I'm hoping that we can combine my ideas and maybe some of your feedback into a series of suggestions that we can give to Frontier, and they can look at it and at least assess the possibility. And if they got a short video series to refer to, that's all the better. And so what is this lingering issue that I have? It's not paths or plazas. It's not a lack of dinosaurs. It's not a missing water park DLC. No, it's guest interaction, which right now is completely intangible for most of what we can create in Planet Coaster. And in a game like Planet Coaster, where so much of what we can do is like creative and out of the box, it becomes a very severe limitation for our parks and the things that we can make. Now, before I start showing you some examples of what I mean, I want to extend a sincere expression of gratitude to a few members of the Planet Coaster community. While I was thinking about making this video, there's a few people, their creations came specifically to mind. I've contacted them. I said, hey, could I please use some of your videos or your pictures in my video? And they've all allowed me to do it. And hopefully I'll be able to use it in the next ones that follow. We'll see. And so I just want to say thank you very much to BeyondYou89, Sdanwolf, and Jonti over Geekism for giving me the time of day. And anyone who's watching this, if you don't know who those three gentlemen are, I'm going to put links in the description to their social media and their YouTube channels or Twitch channels as appropriate. And I highly recommend checking them out. Now, so far in this video, I've been running footage of my park, Wacky World, and I think it's a pretty nice park. But let's go back, let's look at some of that same footage, and this time, let's start thinking about guest interaction. You see my lockers here? I think they're awesome, like visually, they look really good. You know what's missing? The guests can't walk up to them and do anything. They're completely dead. My ride photo booths, I spent a good amount of time building these, and it's the same problem. I made this playground, and while I was able to get guests walking through it, so it appears kind of used, the other half of it's a cemetery, might as well be, and I got this empty sandbox, and I just wish the child guests could like run around in it or play in it or do something with it. It'd just be better that way. And then I want to show you this outdoor bar that BeyondYou89 made as part of his resort that he called the Metric. I hope I got that right. This is a lovely bit of scenery. It could be a lively outdoor scene with guests and customers lining up to buy food and drink, and it could have real shop vendors inside of it. But because of the current limitations in the game, the best you can do is get the guests to sort of stand around it or maybe just walk by. It's just not as exciting. And what if we look at episode 9 of Pinewood Hills? This is Jonti's work from Geekism. Jonti's making these really awesome arcade and boardwalk games. They look fantastic. They're extremely well done. And they would look amazing in an arcade building or along the paths like the Santa Cruz Boardwalk. But there's nothing Johnny can do to get the guests to interact with these. And sure as day, here at the end of the episode, it looks awesome. It's this great like set piece. Might as well be tumbleweeds as far as the guests are concerned. And then the last example I want to show you here is this aquarium that Sdanwolf made. Like, I think he made this shortly after the billboards came out. Fantastic work. And currently, with the tools we have in the game, you could add Vista points and you'd kind of get the guests to stand around it a little bit. But what if there was something you wanted them to react to in the video screen? Or what if you wanted to make a jump scare with the shark animatronic from the Studio Pack DLC? The guests can't react to it. You can't control their animations. There's no tools. And so I think by now you have a pretty good idea about what this issue with guest interaction is and how excited I am about having it if we could. What I want to do now is I want to show you some of the workarounds that currently exist where we could kind of make the guests interact, but I want to show you why they're inadequate. And we're going to start by defining a special term. Kludge. Noun. An ill-assorted collection of parts assembled to fulfill a particular purpose. Or, according to Wikipedia, a kludge is a workaround, or a quick and dirty solution that is clumsy, inelegant, inefficient, difficult to extend, and hard to maintain. So, every last workaround we have to help with guest interaction is a kludge. And on top of it being a kludge, most of them are either redundant in their function, if they have a function, or they don't serve any function at all. So let's go back and let's look at my lockers. I've built 3 sets of lockers. And with each set, I've used a different kludge that will cause guest interactions. The first set here uses Vista points, and the guests, they kind of gather around them and they take pictures? What? You don't do that in front of lockers. You do that in front of like real scenery. The second set uses 3 ATMs, and here they are in a high traffic area, and we can see that they're barely used because the guests will only go there if they need to use an ATM. And is even worse, their function is redundant, okay? They're not lockers. They're 3 ATMs, and we don't need 3 ATMs along the same stretch of path. It's silly. And if you hide a shop behind the lockers, this actually works reasonably well. And the guests even look like they're using them. This is kind of good. But what if you want to make back-to-back lockers like you'd see in like almost any typical park or anywhere on the planet where you find lockers? It doesn't work. So the best kludge for lockers that I used in my park, Wacky World, is to use the locker facility as a kiosk where you would like rent or purchase the locker. But the lockers themselves are still unused. It's close, but no cigar. Now, I don't actually have Sdanwolf's really awesome aquarium, so I've built this very accurate replica to demonstrate how inadequate Vista points are for causing guest interactions with such a piece of scenery. I've added an animatronic shark for a jump scare as well. And you can already see the problems. It's a high traffic area, but very few guests actually stop to view the scenery. And that's with 2 Vista points. There's no way for us to control how desirable a Vista point is for the guests to stop and interact with. We can't give them any sort of animation to play while they're interacting with it. And in some cases, they're standing where they're not even looking at the aquarium. What if I remove the aquarium and try to build an outdoor restaurant or bar like Beyond You 89 made? Let's see what happens with that. How could I get guest interactions with this piece of scenery? Well, Vista points are going to be the best bet. What if I want it to appear to have a vendor inside, right? Like it's a shop, it should have a vendor. You got a ticket booth. It's got columns and it's got metal rails sticking out of it now. It kind of ruins it. The guests, even if they kind of stand around and pretend like they're interacting with it, there's no function. They're not actually getting food. And so what if you actually want to sell food? You're limited to putting a shop in it. And look what that looks like. How could you not be frustrated with this? Now, finally, I'm not going to try and replicate Jonti's arcade games, but the closest thing Jonti could do to get the guests to interact with them, now that we have a Vintage Pack DLC, would be to hide Zoltan or claw machines in each of them. And here's what that looks like. Is this really the best we can do? And it goes back also to that issue of redundancy where, what if you could do this, okay? What if Jonti could hide Zoltan in all of his games? And what if it actually looked good? Well, let's strip away the fancy scenery and you're left with Zoltan pieces all over the place. That's what the game simulation sees. And so functionally, it's like totally borked. It's goofy. Now, I've already said I think it's great that Frontier is still patching the game, and I think the DLCs are good. But with each update or DLC, Frontier is like this competitor in an archery contest, and they just can't hit a bullseye. And it's because of this very limited set of scenery we have to force guest interaction. And I don't think Frontier has made what I would call a sincere effort at bridging this gap between guest interactions and all the amazing scenery and creations that we can come up with. And it's a little bit baffling to me that they'd make such an amazing creative sandbox and only offer such a limited set of tools that we could use to control how the guests interact with what we've made. And the players aren't stupid. If you give us the tools, we'll use them. Those of us that make YouTube videos or upload stuff to the workshop, we're going to show people how to use them if they're complicated, and we'll build blueprints that feature them. And I don't think anybody at Frontier is stupid either. I think they could figure this out. So why is this missing? Is it like too insurmountable a task? I don't really think it is. Is there no demand? Am I the only person that's like looking at my park with all this great scenery and the guests just walk by it like it's nothing who gets frustrated? I can't be the only one. There's got to be demand for this. So by now, we all have a good idea about what this, I'm going to use quotes, this problem is that I want to address with this series. And in the next videos, I'm going to start presenting some solutions. I encourage anyone who's watched this with feedback, criticism, thoughts, or ideas related to this to leave comments. I want to know what you think about this. I want to know maybe what your solution would be to some of these things. Like, how would you maybe implement it? Maybe it's close to what I'm thinking. Maybe it's better than what I'm thinking. Okay, I want to know. And if this is an issue that bugs you and you don't have any like solutions to it yourself, at least say like, hey, this bugs me too. Because that will give us some numbers, hopefully, to show Frontier that there's some demand for addressing this. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if I'm on the right track or if I should just stop wasting my time. And maybe I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. You have a good afternoon and take care.